Dan and I just got out of watching the Edgar Wright film Baby Driver. We're going to record a kind of first impressions of the movie. If you haven't already watched the film Baby Driver, please pause this, save it in your podcast app or whatever you use, and come back to it after you watch the movie, because we are going to spoil everything about it, and it's the type of movie that you're better off going into knowing nothing about. If you can hear like popping going on in the background constantly, that's because here in Jefferson County, Missouri, fireworks are not only legal but encouraged. And so, generally speaking, you're going to have just explosions outside of your window.
It's a
for
war
a good
zone for sure.
Couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, so it's not even July 4th. It's the July 3rd, the day before. And for the last week, it's been crazy. But as you get closer, it gets more dangerous to drive through a subdivision in Arnold. It gets to the point where, because everybody shoots, for some reason, people think it's okay to shoot them off from the street. And they light them, and they walk back, and then you come over the hill, and then a firework goes off under your car. It's crazy.
Hey, as long as you don't have dry grass, you're good.
Yeah, I think it is dry. I think all of our grass is dry. It's been really hot.
Unless the county puts out a notice, you're good. That's how it works. Which has happened before, and people still fired off fireworks.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to stop the masses. People spend an enormous amount of money here on that.
There's more spent on fireworks in Jefferson County than there is on social welfare.
That's probably true.
Just general health from person to person.
Because nothing says, we love America like massive imports from China.
Like literally seeing your money go up in smoke. So we just got back from seeing the movie Baby Driver. We went up to the old Ronnie's Theater and saw it. Got a nice cushioned seat. I got some candy.
Let's start out with that. What did you think of those?
It's nice. It's nice having the reserved seats. It's nice to have a nice cushioned seat, but it wasn't as nice as the ones at the AMC where I normally go.
Yeah, you seemed a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, because the AMC ones I can lean back further. In this, it had a stopping point that I wasn't very comfortable with. It made me prop up too much. I couldn't sprawl out like I'm normally used to.
Now, did you feel that way through the whole movie, or was it just at the beginning?
I got used to it once the movie got going because
good.
The movie was good. So I guess let's go ahead and get into that and not talk
right.
so much about my seating habits. Because as much as I know the viewers like sitting in their cars, wherever they're at, listening to this, I know they like picturing how I sit in a movie, but I don't really think that's why we're here. So first impressions, like what did you think of the movie overall?
Let's see. So I really like Edgar Wright a lot. I've liked everything I've seen of his. I don't know if I've seen all of his movies.
Maybe that's a good, kind of introduce Edgar Wright. Who is Edgar Wright, just in case people aren't as into that director as we are and has no idea.
So Edgar Wright, British director, did what is known as the Cornetto trilogy. That's Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then End of World.
I think it's World's End.
World's End.
It's confusing
Something
because
about
that
the
title
World's
sounds a lot like the Seth Rogen movie, This Is the End, or Is This the End?
I think that's what I get confused, although I've never seen that one.
Yeah, I think it's called World's End because that was the name of the pub they're going to. In the movie.
Right, yes. All three of those movies are fantastic.
And what sorts of things do you like about those movies, just so people kind of get a feel for like what he's known for?
Well, and let's see if we can remember all of his. I almost call it discography. I got music on the mind. So he also did what's the comic one? Scott Pilgrim. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, that's right. He did do that.
That's my favorite one of his, actually.
I remember watching that movie and I liked it, but it didn't blow my mind, but it was a fun movie. I would watch it again.
I just really, really like his style. So yeah, his style. So how to describe it? It's people usually describe it as quick cuts, but like quick cuts would be. Have you ever seen that Liam Neeson trying to jump the fence thing from Taken 3?
Yeah,
that thing. That is a quick cut that is done poorly, but. What Edgar Wright does is, I mean, this is even before Baby Driver. The way I would describe it is, it's like music. Like he cuts everything to this like amazing beat, and a lot of times it's timed really well to music. But sometimes there's like a really, really strong rhythm to it, and he can take you from silence to loud really fast. But it's just I don't know everything he does with the camera and everything he does with the edit is interesting.
And speaking of music, I would say that's like a large part of what we got to see in this movie, because I felt like one of the key things that made it so entertaining was the musical element.
Definitely.
The whole entire thing was just, how do you describe it? Like a rhythmic, like all the scenes were rhythmically placed with the music that was going on. Whether it was people hitting each other, or whether it was the cars driving, or whether it was the guns firing, like it all had like a place with the soundtrack. And the soundtrack was also a big part of the movie as well, which I thought was really interesting.
Yes. Like, have you ever seen Birdman?
Yeah, I've seen most of it.
So there's a scene, you know, the whole thing takes place in like a single take, so to speak.
Right.
But there's a scene I think it's somewhere in the middle of the movie. This isn't a spoiler, but where they're just walking outside somewhere down the street in New York or wherever that takes place. And they just pass by this drummer who's just like a guy in the street playing the drums.
Yeah.
But he's playing the drums like perfectly in sync with the soundtrack. And I remember whenever I saw that for the first time, I thought, holy cow, that must have been really difficult to like pull off that timing, which they probably just played the music really loud and, you know, timed everything up. But still, it's like to get the pacing down with the dialogue and everything in a long take like that's really difficult. In this movie, it was like every single thing that happened on screen timed with the music. It was amazing.
Yeah, and we tried not to talk too much about it before we came to record this, because we wanted to actually discuss kind of our reactions with it. But one thing we did mention just kind of walking out of the theater was one of the things that was interesting about how this movie was structured was that while it's definitely entertaining and you get invested in the story and the characters, it's partly entertaining because of how it's made. And if you just took the story alone, it's not necessarily anything that'll blow your mind. It's not anything revolutionary, but what made it so good and entertaining and investing was how it was made and how it was crafted and put together. Because he didn't have to make these action scenes in that manner. He didn't have to do it to where it like timed with the music and timed with like the gunshots with the music and all that sort of stuff. But that's one of the things that made it interesting to watch, was the fact that he actually put the time and effort into these scenes and into the editing to make it interesting to watch as well.
And that's really what he's known for. I don't know, I've ever shown you, there's a video that you should watch, and everybody should watch if they haven't, by a guy named Tony Zhou, Zhaou, I think. I don't remember how to spell it. But he has this like video essay on Edgar Wright editing, and he kind of said exactly what you just said. It was basically like he shows in this video essay, he shows a couple like opening shots from like a rom-com or something of, you know, entering New York City, and it's your typical helicopter shot where, you know, music's playing in the background and whatever's happening. And then he shows how Edgar Wright shows somebody entering a city, and it's just like every little simple like thing that you have to do whenever you're trying to tell the audience, hey, we're going from here to there. He does it in this like super fascinating way. Somehow he always finds something interesting and different to do.
Yeah.
That's what makes him so fun to watch, because you don't ever know what to expect. Even when you're kind of in that filler, like, oh, we need to get some exposition here, he's going to do it in a fascinating way every time.
Yeah, and like I said, it takes what would have just been a basic like crime thriller with a little bit of like a romantic subplot thrown in. It turns it into something really fascinating to watch.
Let's talk about like each of the characters, because there's some interesting characters in this.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of actors in here. The main actor, who I hate the name, but
what's his name?
Baby.
Well, really? I thought that was kind of cool.
I think it's hokey, but it's fine because the movie was really good around it.
It was kind of hokey.
Well, and it played into kind of part of the story with like talking about songs that use that lyric. So
yeah.
It made sense. I'm not completely bashing it, but so the main actor is Ansel Elgort, and
have you seen him in anything before?
The only other thing I've seen him in is The Fault in Our Stars, which I will
interesting.
say I actually surprisingly like that movie.
I have not seen it.
Didn't think I would. Is he the one that was cast as Han Solo? Because I know he was one of the people that was in the running.
I don't know. Look it up.
I am. I'm looking that
If
up.
only we had the internet at our disposal.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to lose the rest of the cast list, but so yeah, so he's in it as the main character, and he's basically a driver for Kevin Spacey, who they don't really give a lot of background about him, but you kind of get the impression he's this crime boss that puts together all these crimes, and then you have other people like John Hamm.
Well, let's go through each person.
Okay,
So, Baby, the main character. What did
Right.
you think of him?
I thought he was all right. I think he's a good actor. It took me about half the movie to get into his hammy character, like dancing around.
He's
and
got a little
wearing
like
sunglasses all
80s
the
Tom
time
Cruise
and-
going on, doesn't he?
yeah, and
With the
and
t-shirts.
and it's one of those things where it's like if it was a movie that was trying to pass it off as super serious, it would have really bugged me. But the fact that it knew that it was kind of being over the top with his character, it kind of
Especially
made it okay.
that sort of after the opening car chase, which was incredible.
Yeah.
That him going to get coffee thing. There was about 12 seconds of me being like, what in the world is this guy all about?
Yeah.
And then immediately followed by, okay, I think I'm going to enjoy this. I just have to expect this the whole time. His like weird dancing through the streets and timing everything to the music.
Yeah, which was cool as far as like again how it was structured standpoint, but it was kind of like it took a little getting used to, but
Yeah.
it ended up like by the end of the movie, I really liked the character and I was really invested in everything he was trying to do, and he's basically just kind of like blackmailed into being this driver for this crime organization, but he's like really good at what he does, and so
Yeah, I like another driver movie, Drive. I
Yeah.
like whenever the main person is that, I think there's a name for it, but basically just absurdly good at what they do. Like, most of the struggle comes with them trying to help the people around them because you know that they can handle themselves all the time. I did feel like towards the end, he sort of broke character, at least what I thought his character was. Like, he got really violent in a way that I didn't feel like matched his character at all.
when you talking about like near the end where like he but see I don't think that was the case. I think because they showed us so much of his character and that he was generally non-violent, I think we were meant to just accept like whenever he hijacks that car and pulls out a gun, I guess that might be like one of the scenes you're talking about.
Just generally, he broke bad really fast.
Oh, gotcha.
It didn't feel like he slowly got sucked into something. It felt like all of a sudden he was willing to shoot people in a way that
Yeah.
sort of I wasn't expecting.
But he never did. The only people he shot was just
the other bad guys. Sure.
yeah, that he knew were bad people and were
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to kill him and his girlfriend. So
Yeah, that's true.
like it's like he saw how bad they were, because there was a time in the movie where John Hamm's character, you're not really sure whether he's just like a common criminal or whether he was as bad as they were portraying Jamie Foxx's character. So what were some of your favorite parts about this movie? Like what were some of your favorite scenes?
Like almost all of my favorite stuff was the very beginning. That opening car chase was to me was amazing and kind of set the tone for everything. Honestly, that was probably the most I've ever gotten into a car chase. Like I actually felt like I was kind of like my heart was racing a little bit, which is again weird. Like I don't normally feel like I get like that with typical action scenes. And I like a car chase fine, but that to me was just the timing of the music with everything, and everything felt really like, I don't know what the right word is. Like it was very loud and rough, and like the car was sliding all over the place, and I don't know.
Yeah, I see you said that whenever we first walked out of the movie, and I agree, like that opening was absolutely amazing and it did set the tone for it. Weirdly though, like I found myself really like interested in the end whenever everything started like going to crap in that car garage. So everything has gone crazy. Half the cast has died with this botched like robbery that was going on. He's trying to go get his girlfriend so that they can like leave and just get out of this sort of like lifestyle. And so it ends up John Hamm chases him down and they're in the car garage, and there's just that whole segment of the movie. I don't know why, but where he just starts like driving backwards and John Hamm is chasing him going forwards, and they're just
that
like
was pretty
spinning
cool.
through the car garage for about, it felt like 2 minutes, but it was probably shorter than that. But it just felt like, I remember at that point, like I remember thinking like all the car chase in this movie has given Michael Bay a run for his money.
Ha. There wasn't enough cameras spinning around in circles.
Yeah, not enough yellow tint in it either.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I did like how that whole scene was lit by the police car lights. Did you notice that? It was just like totally dark.
Yeah.
But then there's just this really strong, like kind of intense police light that was lighting everything, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things that I had mentioned to you whenever it ended was when I went into this movie, I really wasn't. It's not that I thought it was going to be bad or anything, but like I had watched the preview for it months ago, forgot what it was about. I just remember something about Kevin Spacey and that it was Edgar Wright. So it's like, yeah, sure, I'll go see that. But I really wasn't expecting anything nuts. But there was a point in the movie, like way before the end, where I thought, like there's been so much here, like I would be satisfied walking out of this movie with just the amount of film that they gave me. But then they ended up, like it still was going for another 30 minutes and still like the stakes kept like getting higher and higher and more interesting. And that's what I liked about it, was like it just felt like there was so, in addition to the way it was crafted so well, the fact that there was just so much thrown at it and just a lot. And had a good finale, had a good build. I guess pacing, that's a good...
Which is one of Edgar Wright's definite fortes.
Right.
Just pacing in general, within a scene and within a movie.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen a movie where that like builds that well. Like I don't know, it was just fantastic. I loved it.
You do need to see Free Fire. You have not seen that, correct?
No, I
yeah,
haven't.
that movie was good in a very similar way, where it's just a constant building of anticipation, or of suspense, not anticipation.
I have a question about the movie though. This is complete non sequitur, but two of the actors, the girl and the main character, it sounded like they had like Southern accents. Where was this supposed to be at? Because it looked like New York City.
My impression was that the whole thing was taking place in Nashville.
Oh.
There was a couple different things that led me to that. The main one was there's a diner and people seem to be like into music, like not starving artists, but you know what I mean? There was this kind of, his mom was a recording artist but worked at a diner. People were referencing Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
So that was my impression the whole time, was that it was in specifically Nashville, mainly because of the music side of it.
See, I don't know why. Maybe just because I saw the city and I thought it looked like New York, like when they were in it. For some reason, I thought it was in New York. But yeah, every time the girl at the diner and him would talk, like I caught like an edge of...
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean,
accent.
he definitely had one.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, and all the like bystanders they ever talked to had an accent. The lady at the bank and some of the other people.
So, what would you say your favorite character is from this movie? Like, that stood out to you?
I mean, probably Baby.
See, I actually picked John Hamm because I watched all of Mad Men, and it was just interesting seeing him in a slightly different role.
He definitely played something different. Yeah.
Yeah, just like going from the ad man from Mad Men to a crazy psychotic murderer in this movie was really interesting.
I would agree that he would be my second favorite. I mean, I also really like Kevin Spacey, but Kevin Spacey was pretty much playing Kevin Spacey, which is great, but it wasn't anything different than normal.
Well, for me, it's like John Hamm, like I think he got Emmys for television, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got an Emmy Award for Mad Men, I think a couple times or whatever, but he's been recognized for that. And I always thought, like, yeah, he does fine as Don Draper, but he's just kind of this same character for 8 seasons or however long that went, and he's always great at it. But I never felt like there's not a single scene in Mad Men that I can think of that was like, holy cow, his acting just stands out. And I've always wondered, like, I'd like to see him do something in a different type role. And so I think that's why.
What else?
I
what
really
have I seen
liked
him in? I feel like I saw him in something recently.
He was in some baseball movie, but I never watched
saw that, and that one was fine, but it wasn't anything incredible. Let's see. What am I thinking of?
While you're looking that up, one of the other things that legitimately got me a little bit emotional in the movie was whenever he dropped off his what is that? I guess foster dad at the
and he was
at the
recording
old folks home at the end, and I was just like, he's just gonna leave him here? Like I almost felt like like at first I was like, wow, this seems kind of cold, but then I was like, well, I guess I don't know what else he could do, and he's trying to care for him, so that's the best option he could possibly come up with if all the police are after him. I just remember thinking like, oh, that's so sad. He's just gonna leave this old guy sitting on the front door
But then whenever he like disappeared, Batman style.
Yeah.
He then signed at the helicopter, "Good luck." Do you remember that?
Yeah. I thought it would have been funny if they said if they had like his stepdad be like, "I hate it when he does that."
Yeah. He does this all the time.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. What I was thinking of was he was in that Christmas special of Black Mirror. Did you ever see that?
I haven't seen it yet.
Ooh.
I'm still watching through Black Mirror.
That is a good one. You should definitely. That would be to me the best thing I've ever seen him do.
I like the idea of a Christmas special and Black Mirror combined. I didn't know there were Christmas specials.
There is.
Christmas
and it's
is like
extra
my
long.
favorite thing in the whole world. So I might have to save that for Christmas time.
It might make it a big downer for you because that's what every episode of Black Mirror does.
Yeah, they're not really happy. I didn't even
Indeed.
know. Yeah, I didn't even know he was in Black Mirror.
No,
but
it's a really good one.
I'd like to see him do more stuff, because I think he was even supposed. Wasn't he in the consideration for Superman at one point as well?
I think so. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, but he would have bulked up. He wouldn't
That's
have
a
been.
good point.
He wouldn't
would
have
have
been
great.
Don Draper.
It's more just that he's older.
Yeah. But
I do like him. Also, we should, preface this with he's a fellow St. Louisan, so obviously we are biased against him. He eats the emos, so.
So I guess to put a bow tie on this, what you're saying is that this movie could not have been made without St. Louis.
I think that's right. So this is one thing that bothered me. Did the girl seem like she should have... Did it seem like she just really jumped in immediately without any sort of hesitation at all? Did that not seem weird to you?
Yeah, because in a lot of situations like that, when you've just seen like violence and crime in your place of work, and you've just met this guy, and you don't know anything about him, you might like him at first, but the moment you get threatened with your life and see him not noticing you and come inside the diner, like it's kind of like maybe some flags will go up, but
because here's the thing from her character's perspective: like, nice kid, like, oh, okay, we kind of get along, blah blah blah. Then he shows up at the diner with a bunch of really shady looking people and ignores you,
right?
And then they act really weird,
and then
leaves.
Yeah,
and then one of those guys comes back with a gun and waits for you, or threatens you, I guess, and then whenever he shows up, then you watch this guy shoot another guy that you don't really know these two at all.
Yeah, you don't know the situation.
And so she literally watches him shoot a guy and then is like, all right, I'm with you. It just seemed really odd.
You know what it was? It was the power of love. It told her. It spoke to her heart and told her that this was a good guy.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, though. It was a little quick. It had to work within the movie.
True.
That way.
I will say their chemistry was really good.
Yeah. Because that's one thing I will say it did well. Now that you bring it up, is like, because I feel like she wasn't in it as much. She had her scenes, don't get me wrong, but like it's a 2-hour movie, and she's probably in it about 10 minutes total on screen, maybe.
Yeah, she's the love interest to give him something to care about.
So with the amount of time that they had to build a relationship with actual chemistry that you cared about, they did it really well.
Yeah, I think so. I think those two were like good together and everything.
Interestingly, some of those scenes where they did that didn't have any words at all. Like if you remember the scene at the restaurant where he like first takes her on like a real date, not the first time whenever they just go to the laundromat. It's just like a lot of like non-verbal.
Well, that was the Michael Bay shot. Do you remember that? Literally, the camera circled around them while music played, and it kind of faded in and out. The difference is
it wasn't an action.
It wasn't
shot.
Well, and it wasn't a single shot. Like as the camera would pass one of them, he would use that person as a transition to switch to a close-up. But the camera kept rotating, and then at one point with the music, they both were rotating their glasses to kind of make it ring, and it timed with the music. Like that was really cool. But it was funny because it was the Michael Bay shot, but he used it in a date scene.
Yeah. It was just really cool that they managed to give off this like vibe that you could tell like that the characters actually cared about each other and you were invested in them without even really having to have many lines of dialogue as well. Which is always fascinates me that they can do that, because I've seen movies where, like for instance, Attack of the Clones, the second Star Wars, where they throw every cheesy line they can think of into the love story, and it's not believable.
Yes. It's almost like George Lucas didn't write the dialogue here.
It's like sand. It's very coarse.
I hate sand.
Yeah, it's so coarse. All right, but no, I do have another question now that we're talking about certain scenes. So, okay, so near the end of the movie, whenever the main character was going to sneak out to go pick up the girl from the diner and leave, and he was going to bail on the job and everything, like, they catch him and they bring him back inside, and Kevin Spacey's like, "Hey man, what's going on?" Except he doesn't talk like that because he's Kevin Spacey. And they
and they found the recorder.
Yeah, and then they said, which I actually, okay, I'm glad you mentioned the recorder, because I was going to talk about something else, but I want to talk about that now that you mentioned it. Okay, so I actually thought that there was going to be some sort of plot, like he actually legitimately was like using that as some sort of
I kind of thought that too, because he kept listening to "This is your call. This is your call."
And so I almost feel like, even though the movie itself was genius, that was like a weird.
What's the name for that
opportunity?
Shoot, there's a literary term for that. Whenever you show a gun, like if you describe the way a gun looks in a book, that gun is going to be used. I wish I could remember what the name was.
I'm not sure. I just know I remember thinking like, oh yeah, so he's got like hundreds of tapes with all these voice recordings on them, and I could have swore that was going to come back up at some point later, but ended up no, he just likes making music and mixing it with like these voice things. It was just something for them to be suspicious with him about, oddly.
Right.
And that was really weird. But what I was going to say was
Chekhov's gun. That's what that's called.
Oh.
It's an actual literary term.
A Star Trek reference, I'm assuming?
I didn't know that, but it's, yes, Anton Chekhov. That's the guy from Star Trek, right?
Yep.
Chekhov's gun is a dramatic principle that states that every element in a story must be necessary and irrelevant elements should be removed. Elements should not appear to make false promises by never coming into play. So there you go. Statement is recorded in letters by Anton Chekhov several times with some variation. Oh, wait. No, that's that's not Star Trek. He was a Russian author, Russian playwright.
Oh, well, maybe Chekhov was named after him.
I don't know. We're going to look both like bad nerds and bad geeks at the same time.
I'll full disclosure, I like Star Trek, but I do not claim to be a Trekkie.
I'm definitely not. I think our age group kind of slid into a more Star Wars track.
I'm just more of a fan of Patrick Stewart than I am Star Trek in general. I'll see anything with that man's head in it.
Fair. Just his head.
Yeah, just his face. Top of that shiny dome. I'll watch it.
So glad we got that cleared up. But yeah, that was kind of weird. But that whole thing was weird. I didn't really understand what his play was. I guess his play there was he agreed to do it so that they would sleep there at night. Like, why did he say yes?
I think he said yes because he planned on sneaking out. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he just said yes because he planned on sneaking out and he figured they would be occupied and asleep and he could get out and just leave. But I just thought it was weird, the threat that they had, because in addition to like finding those tapes, what I was originally going to mention was they imply that they like had his foster dad, but then you find out later all they really did was just kind of went to his house, threw some stuff around, and took his wheelchair. And I guess that's mean.
I guess I didn't have the impression that they took him. They said he was fine.
Yeah, but I just thought that was
But they knew
weird.
where he lived and everything.
Yeah. I mean, so it works as a threat. It was just kind of like, I don't know. I just have this weird visual of like Jamie Foxx just showing up at his house and being like, "Hey, old man, I'm gonna need your wheelchair." Just
that's true. They took his
setting
wheelchair.
him on the floor and just being like, "Are you gonna kill me?" No, man. I'm just gonna take the wheelchair.
Can we talk about Jamie Foxx's character? So I have a like weird. I feel like he's a good actor who I oftentimes don't like, and I feel like in this movie he was actually really good at playing who he played, but man, I hated that guy.
I think what it is like I feel like that's Jamie Foxx in real life.
Really?
I don't know him, so he may be.
But he's not like that.
He may be the sweetest man on the face of the earth.
I mean, his roles are really diverse, though. He's not normally like
Yeah.
a kind of gangster guy like that guy was.
I haven't really seen him in a lot of movies. The only movies I can really think off the top of my head is this movie and Django.
And Spider-Man 2.
Oh, true.
Spider-Man 2, the second one.
Who could forget that master acting class?
No, he was in that one where he played the cello or something with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yeah, where he had
And-
like the mental issues.
Yeah, he's in all sorts of movies, I
That
feel
was
like.
an all right movie.
I feel like I've seen him as a businessman in some movie before.
Oh, he was in that weird Annie remake. I never saw that. I heard it was awful.
Well, there's that. But I bet he was great in it. I'm just saying, like, there's something I don't care for him. Like, something about him I don't care for, but I also feel like he's really good in everything he does.
I really do think it's just his personality in real life, because I haven't like extensively followed him, but I've seen him in a couple interviews or read things about him, and he always seems to be like bad mouthing someone or
Oh,
challenging
really?
someone.
See, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that. He always
and
seemed
so
nice.
I may be exaggerating, and he may be right in whatever he's arguing with
Sure.
people about. I have no idea, but it always seems like he's just kind of mean, or full of himself. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. But again, I've not really invested much time in following him either, so I could be completely wrong.
Well, Jamie Foxx, if you are listening to this, you should reach out to us and clear your name.
Yes, and yeah.
You had a great joke there.
cut
I could
that.
see it.
We'll cut that. So after seeing this movie, it's fresh on your mind. What rating would you give it, and what scale are you going to use?
I start with the rating and then the scale.
Yes, exactly.
Let's just go with a good old fashioned Rotten Tomatoes. Out of 100. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I'd say I'd give it a like high 80s.
Okay, and why would you give it that score?
So-
What specifically?
I mean, it's ridiculously fun to watch. I will want to watch it again and again. So there's that. My only reason for knocking, and it was just executed to me like almost perfectly. It seemed like, that was what I expected. I do feel like there was some kind of weird, not plot holes, but just like we talked about some of the stuff with like the main girl. What was her name? Deborah.
Yeah.
I feel like she was pretty underdeveloped and kind of had a like damsel in distressness to her that I found a little annoying. Mm-hmm. And then, some of the other like bad guys were a little cliche, but a lot of them got more interesting. But it wasn't the most original plot. It was just a tried and true plot that was executed just
Really well.
beautifully, and in a way that like you just don't see with any other movies. And so that alone, just to watch Edgar Wright's editing over and over again is a reason to want to watch the movie over and over again. How about you?
Okay, so I am not going to use the Rotten Tomato system. They are, they're the big corporation, and just trying to bring us down, ruining our experiences. So I'm going to use a gold star system on a scale of 1 to 5. And I would give this film 4 out of 5 stars. And if you were to translate that into a score, it would be somewhere maybe around 85% if you're going to, if you're going to hold a gun to my head. This is America.
All right, so hopefully we didn't ramble too crazily on that. We didn't really have a plan. That was just our thoughts directly out of the movie theater. If you want to leave us any feedback or check out any of our other stuff, you can go to our website at atownfm.com. You can also... No hyphen.
Or
yes.
no dash, sorry.
No dash, no hyphen. I think those are the same thing. I'm not really sure. You can also go over to our Facebook page by searching A-Town FM. And go ahead and give that a like. Leave any feedback you want to leave. Anything critical definitely goes there. But if you have anything positive, if you could also jump over to iTunes and leave us a review, that supposedly really helps. That's what all the podcasts that I listen to say. So I assume that that's actually important. And then we also have a Twitter account, at A-Town FM, where probably for now anyway, we'll just be posting whenever we have something new. But if that's how you keep track of all your podcasts, you can follow that. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think real quick, and just to give you guys a little taste of what we're going to be talking about on our next podcast. Typically, we've been just kind of a stream of consciousness about just kind of random stuff.
Typically,
But
in our
next...
huge, backlog of episodes that we've had.
Exactly. Yeah, and so our next episode will be entirely dedicated to Spider-Man. We're going to see Spider-Man: Homecoming, which, as of this moment, we have not viewed yet, so we know nothing. And then we are also going to kind of discuss comic books and the other Spider-Man movies that we love so much, and we're going to rank all of them after seeing Spider-Man: Homecoming in order. That's what, six films total?
Yeah,
because there was only 2 in the reboot.
Action.
So
right. Yep.
Yeah.
The first
we're not going
reboot.
to count Civil War because that wasn't really a Spider-Man movie. So we're going to rank all the 6 movies in order after doing a review of Spider-Man: Homecoming.